Hi, this is János, and tonight we are talking about music, records. Recently I just saw a message thread on Audiogon forum, and someone mentioned that he has put together a record system, a turntable, etc., everything, and it cost him about $10,000. And now he's like super disappointed because the new record prices are really high. They climbed up to about $40 per record in his experience. And he noticed that I think he said like only a half of it or a third of it was just good quality. The rest of it either had like problems with the pressing or were just not sounding good. And he was kind of like very let down at that he paid so much money for the system, and now he's like putting like $2,000 for a couple records, and he only has a handful that he can listen to that he likes. And as opposed to streaming, man, he just pays like, or you can pay a minimum amount for streaming or even have free streaming services and have access to millions of music. That's all true. And that's the reality of it, that if you want to stream digitally, you can stream anything. But as people on that forum, on the thread pointed out, most of that thing that you can stream are just as much rubbish as the defects or reject LPs that he has purchased. And that's quite right. Even though if you know what you are looking for, you can find a lot of good stuff within those 2 or 3 million songs that you can stream. And it's really up to how you put together your system, whether you can find joy in the streamed files or not. What I notice for myself is that for streaming, I never stream when I really in the mood to listen to music, to have like a deep connection to music. I listen to stream stuff when I'm either like so tired that I'm just like totally out of my brain and just wanna hit something, and then I put some heavy beat stuff and just crank up the volume, you know, just to keep me awake and just, you know, hold my fudge together. But or I just stream stuff for background listening, but for that usually I just put on something like on YouTube and a podcast and have the podcast going on the background. I can't even remember. Well, actually, I was going to say I can't remember the last time I streamed the music for listening, but yes, last time I did that was sitting right here in my chair, and I also have my computer right there in front of me, above me. I'm pointing at it, and I have my computer hooked up to my DAC. The DAC is over there with my system, you don't see it, and I have like 16 feet of USB cable with a repeater in it to boost the signal that runs to the DAC. So whatever I play on my computer, I can also listen to on my main stereo on the big speakers over there. And I was listening to some really heavy stuff, like a lot of bass and very simple. Most people would barely even recognize it as music, and I didn't listen to it for like the quality of sound or whatnot, but just for the joy of listening to something while I'm working on my computer and doing things like doing emails, doing work emails, catching up with work and that sort of thing. So just some sort of background, whatever. Also, for streaming or digital, what I do is I also have my projector hooked up to my main system, and most of my digital listening is like films, soundtracks of films, TV shows, and that's that's what I use digital mainly for. And simply because I think that digital has a very different approach to how it sounds, and I would say that you can voice it a lot on your system, and depending on how you voice it, you can make them sound very, very different and have a very different impact. But what I noticed for myself is that 20 years ago and even 15 years ago, I was very happily listening to digital for deep music listening, but by now there are some quirks in it that feels like there's something in digital that is not fluid, that is not alive. And I'm not saying it doesn't sound good. It can sound really good, really spectacular, but there's something to it that just does not have a healing effect on my body. I think that's the most important part. So when I listen to records or cassette tapes, then I feel like the energy starting to flow in my body. And for digital sources, that's not happening, or happening to a very minimal degree and at a limited level. So, but now let's go back to the records, because what people are noticing today when you are putting together your system now, as opposed to people like me who have been listening to records for decades and decades. So I started putting together my analog system 25 years ago. So and I think the biggest part of building my system was building my record collection. And my best LPs that I got were not the ones that I bought new. Most of the ones that I really cherished and I think they sound fantastic and have fantastic impact were second-hand sourced and used records. And most of them are not made in our days. They were made a long time ago, from the 50s to the 70s largely. And now I'm going to get a lot of heat because you are saying, or many are saying, János, you are talking rubbish because technology has been advancing like a rocket, like a Tesla rocket flying to the sky. And 50s, 70s, those guys were living in the dark ages and sound quality was rubbish, utter shit back then. And I would have to respectfully decline these sentiments. And for now, before I'm going to show you the records I was listening to today and yesterday and recently, I'm just going to share that each era has a fundamental impact on the recordings they make, how the music is made. So music is not just notes on a sheet that a person takes and translates to an instrument or singing. It's also how it comes through, how the translation of those notes, of those that mathematical sequence comes out. That is music. The interpretation is the music. And each stage of the society, I call it stage of the society, like today we are at year 2025, and that's the stage of our society. In year 2000, that was a different one. 70s, different one. So as we progress through the time, the mentality of people changes, how you perceive your world changes, perception changes, how musicians interpret the music changes, what is expected of those musicians changes, what is expected of people mixing the records changes, the technology playing back, the preference of people owning that technology in their home changes. So there's like, I noticed that each decade has a very characteristic sonic signature that is different from the decade that came before it. There's no like hard line that, okay, like 1989, December 31st, it sounded 80s, and then next day, you know, January the 1st, it's something totally different, the 90s popped up, and no. If you listen to a majority of music in an era, and then you like pick something from 1985, and you pick something from 1995, there's going to be a vast amount of difference between the two. And if you pick something from 75 and 95, the difference will be even greater. And what I noticed is that as the technology advances and we have more and more opportunities, it doesn't mean that the more opportunity result in a better overall experience. If you are into the, I would say, the psychology of music or philosophy of music, or digging down to the soul of music, what music is, what art is, then you will invariably find that the cornerstone of music is the life experience, or is the sum of the life experience of the musician bringing it to you. And nowadays that includes the life experience of the of those people who are doing the mixing of the music, the production of the music as well. And what they bring to the table has a fundamental impact in the sound and how you perceive the music. So if when you have a record, an engineer who's there like supervising how to place the microphones, how to, you know, record them, what gear he uses, how he operates them, what he demands of the musicians, etc., etc. How that person approaches music has, and his, what he brings to it makes a lot bigger difference than the technology that he uses to record the music. And that's why in every era there's like amazing music made and terribly shitty music made as well, and the whole range in between them. And I would say that as we go back in time, the opportunity to record music was very narrow, and the people who could get there at that level had to be at a very high level of their game to be accepted into that special position. Now a 10-year-old kid can record music and publish on YouTube or get opportunities to have their song as part of those millions which are streamed. And that's why we have a massive devaluation of the standards of the quality. And yet we still have high quality recordings as well, but the overall feel and these really low bowlers, they really dilute the spectrum, and even the ones who are of high quality, they tend to be really sterile and devoid of soul, reflecting the man of our age. We are in a society that has issues. People nowadays don't relate to each other. And the fundamentals of music is relating to each other. That's what music is all about, connecting people. And now in our society there's no connection. Everything is falling apart. People don't talk to each other anymore. They are on their cell phones, they are texting. When they go and hang out together, everyone is texting on their phone, and oh, the young people, oh, I'm having such a wonderful party, look at, oh, amazing, amazing. And all you see is these people texting, and they are not enjoying it, they are just putting their posts, telling how wonderful it is, and smile for the camera, but when they're not smiling for the photo, then they look like really alone. And and I think this is not just a phenomenon for young people who are just lonely and lack of friends and lack of real friends whom you can trust. There's just superficial friends, but also it impacts music as well. And to me, music made in a rage is not as that much impressive. There is some good music, and I'm going to have an episode when I'm going to show a couple of records that I recently bought that I like, and some that I don't like. But for now, I'm going to show you ones that I listened to, and I had all kinds of experiences. So let's maybe start with the ones that are of the crap quality. Okay. So now I'm going to show you white vinyl, California Smoker. And this was an early digital LP. So today people are saying, why you buy modern vinyl? Nonsense, it's mastered in the digital domain, just buy it digitally, easier. And yep, I agree, it's much easier to just stream it. However, these people who say that why don't you just play it in the digital format, they never heard of the phenomena that when people, even studios, when they make music, what they offer, many studios offer, is to have your digital recording and they record it onto a reel-to-reel. They record it onto a tape. And then they re-digitize that. And I have a fantastic musician friend. He's a jazz musician, a really hardcore professional one. He graduated from Juilliard's, and he himself did a recording like that. And at the studio, they showed him, and he's a hardcore digital believer. And even he said, like, wow, I was astounded that doing that transfer onto tape, it sounded a lot better after that. I wouldn't have believed anyone telling me if they told me that story, but now I heard with my ears, it's just like, wow. And I would say the effect for that is that it's not just like about the tape, because if you put it onto an LP, there's no tape involved, but there's also a crossing into the analog domain involved. And what you are doing is that you are putting an EQ onto your digital stuff and record it onto the LP with that compression, that EQ change, which affect mostly the bass region, mid-range as well a little bit, and leaves the highs unchanged practically. And when you replay it, you are decompressing it. So it's kind of like a compression, decompression, but it's a non-linear compression. And what I've noticed, that when you do that, it can have a fantastic effect on digital, and the effect that it has, it removes that lifeless digital feel and gives back an amount of life to it. So I replicated this with my setup in a way that I used the output of my CD player and put a reverse RIA filter on it, so like squeeze the output into a signal level that would be identical as if it was coming from a cartridge. And then I had that go to my phono stage, and from my phono stage go back to the system. And guess what? This was a simple Onkyo CD changer, which is not even considered audiophile, right? Just an ordinary pedestrian CD changer. But I had it because it's fantastic. I put on 6 CDs, and I'd say I put on 6 Bachs, and I press play, and I have half a day of Bach playing non-stop. And I can do work, I can work on the car, etc., and I have Bach playing on the background. And of course, that what came out of that was not as detailed and high resolution as coming from my dedicated digital sources, but it was kind of nice enough. However, what I noticed that when I did the RIA squeeze on the output and then hooked it up through the phono stage, it it kind of had the effect as if I added like a tube DAC for the output, because I have a tube phono stage. So it sounded a lot like my more higher end CD player with my Cavent player, which has a tube DAC in it. And however, what it did something really special. It sounded, I would have sworn it's coming from an LP. Whatever CD I put in sounded like an LP, and I never heard it with any other CD player. Sadly, I have to add that when I did this with my heavily modified Micromega and with the Cavent, there the difference was minimal to none. So it's really heavily dependent on the gear that you have. But that low-grade Onkyo, that was just amazingly transformed. It sounded like a lower-end turntable. Like I have my Rega with my RB300 arm with a basic audio note cartridge. That's how it sounded. Just really natural, really relaxed. And I could relate to anything that I put on at the level of the soul and just go into it. And it didn't even bother me that it was not ultra high def or ultra high resolution. And I would say to all the audiophiles and all the music lovers out there that that's how you know that you have a keeper system, that you want to listen to it. And not to it, but to the music that you play on it. And I think today the sins of audio gears, the number one sin is to get between you and the music. And I would rather recommend 100% a lower grade system that lets you connect to the music than having something that has more detail level but stands between you and the music and creates a barrier between your perception. And but this one, I think this was actually done in the 70s. So I think this was one of the first attempts to have like a digital recording brought to people, because this was the time before CD players. And before CD players, we already had digital recording technology, and but there was no way yet how to bring it to people, so you couldn't buy CDs yet. So what they did, okay, let's burn it to vinyl. And look at that. It's gorgeous. It's white vinyl, 2000 BC. It looks fantastic, it looks fabulous, but it sounds like trash, like utter trash. Of course, on the back of the music of the album, it lists like, oh, this is wonderful, and what high quality and fidelity, and it's just like a eulogy, just higher technical and artistic quality are in fact achieved, etc. It's just wow. You would think you are wowed by the description, and I was wowed after I read it, and then I hit the stylus on oh, what? Help! Someone just, Nali, switch it off. It was brutal. So I think this record has a historical value for bringing us digital music before we had digital playback. So I think that's why it's like piece of our history. But other than that, for collectors, but not for people who actually listen to stuff. Now I'm going to show you things which is the exact opposite. Now, was it done in the 70s also? Let me just, no, 80s, 84, 85, 85. And the label is Caprice. And this is a Swedish recording. The Swedes, they know their stuff. They are hardcore audiophiles. So if you know, there's the label Proprius, and it has just phenomenal recordings. And this label Caprice, I would rate it as high as Proprius. And I'm not sure how to spell this composer, Gösta Nyström. I hope please don't hit me with bricks over the internet, my fine Swedish friends. Actually, I love Swedish music, and however, not these ones. So actually, I have 3 of these. Look at that. That's another one. 2. And I have a 3rd. So this 3 records from this composer, and they're just brutally high quality, phenomenally recorded. The sound floor is below your basement level. What is sound floor? There's noise floor and sound floor, and people usually they just talk about noise floor, which means what is the baseline noise that you have. But the sound floor is which are the quietest sounds in the recording that tell you, that give you the dynamic range. And nowadays, what I notice is that with digital recordings, even though we have the noise floor like ridiculously low, like values that are listed as like 100 dB or 120 dB below 0 dB level, but the sound floor is high up. So there's like a void that goes down there, but the sound doesn't start where the void starts. The sound floor starts way high up. I noticed that here the sound floor goes way lower, giving much higher dynamic range than most of today's digital sources, fine or finest digital sources provide. And this is something that you will build up when you have experience with analog, that experience that spans over the decades and spans high quality equipment. And I have to tell you guys that when I listen to these LPs, these exact same ones, just using solid state MC step-ups, or I'm using just moving magnet cartridges, then it's not obvious. Then I cannot use the low sound floor of these recordings. It seems that both the noise floor and the sound floor are quite high, and the dynamic range is not that big. It's not as big as a very good digital system. A very good digital system can floor your turntable-based system when you use solid-state phono stages and solid-state step-up amplification. However, when I put in my step-up transformers, which is an Expressive Technologies SUT1, oh my god, then sound floor just drops like to Arctic or Antarctic temperature levels and just opens up. It feels like there's like a 20 dB dynamic range at the bottom end opening up, compared to even extremely good solid state step-up amplification. It's that good. It's just insane. Like, and it not only opens up an extra huge swath at the bottom, but also at the top as well. and it is just incredible what a really good step-up transformer can do for phonostages, for moving coil phonostages. And yeah, so if you want to enjoy the dynamics of a good recording, then that's what you need, moving coil cartridges with a really good step-up transformer. And there's plenty of really good step-up solid-state devices, but they are not going to give you that dynamic range. They are going to give you bass response, they can give you energy, they can give you frequency extension, but they won't give you that dynamic range and that crazy low sound floor. That's, you need that for that. And when you have that, yep, these Caprice albums are phenomenal. Sadly, they are not my cup of tea. It's more of kind of like, I wrote it like chaotic music, very unbalanced sound, like kind of like where I am. It's almost like they give you like what is a drink that they drink in Sweden? I don't know. Maybe some schnapps from Germany that you bring over, you know, over the ferry, and then you chew on snus. Maybe you eat it by mistake, and then they spin you around, and where I am, and then they put on the music. That's how you feel listening to this music, like in that state, like suddenly inebriated and a little bit of nicotine poisoning and lost in space. So that's how this music is, which is really sad because they just sound so darn good. But now my problem is that what you can see behind me, that my LPs are really overflowing and I need to keep them, you know, in control. So what I'm doing when I'm listening to them is I'm sorting them, I'm culling them down and keeping pies. Some I will sell, some I will donate, give to friends, whatever, and there will be a bunch that I keep. Sadly, I'm not going to keep these, and my heart is bleeding because they sound fucking awesome, really, really fantastic. And also look at the price tag. Can you see? I don't know. Is it visible? 50 cents. 50 cents each. Oh. So they were originally purchased 50 cents each. Yeah. So that's how life is. So sometimes when people complain that they paid like $40–50 for a modern pressing and it sounds like shit, yeah, you can find for 50 cents something from the 80s that just gives the toughest competition ever to the best produced, best mastered, high resolution digital today, provided you have an appropriate turntable or analog system to play it. And when you have it, it's like, oh my god, like the naturalness of that recording, I think it trumps, I don't like to use that word, but it trumps any digital recording done today. And I'm not saying digital is bad, but somehow these Caprice recordings, they capture music in a way that makes me feel that I'm listening to the musicians, I'm there listening to the concert. And when it's digitally done, it makes me feel that I'm watching a show, and I don't want a show. I'm not interested in you know, like someone putting up a show and faking something. There's always a feel of fakery, of inauthenticity, and it's not about the sound quality. Oh, is it like clean enough, or is it like 100% accurate? What did the mastering engineer think when he recorded, and then am I getting 100% the same thing or just 95.5%? Oh. So for me, what I'm looking at when I listen to music, does it hit me as authentic or fakery? And even if it's done really nice, if it still hits as fakery, it's still a fakery. And that's why audiophiles are starved today, because we are looking for authentic experiences, and it's darn hard to find an authentic experience in year 2025. Actually darn hard to find any authentic experience from the 90s on. But as you go back to the 70s and 60s, 50s, the average level of authenticity and presence in the recording just jumps up like phenomenal levels. So let me just show you a few more. Average music. This will be likely the most average that you pick if you start building your record collection from used records. You just grab a random record from a record sale, let's say the Schumann record, and Turnabout Vox, which is like a non-audiophile label, lots of reissues, etc. It says remastered for stereo. Yeah, it's something questionable. And it's Robert Schumann. And I would say it was pretty good. It's nice and listenable, good music. I would give it like 3 out of 5 sonics. And on my system it sounds really good, but I can tell you guys that if your system is hyper optimized for digital, it won't sound. You drop the stylus and you will lift it up after 5 seconds because you won't like it. It will just sound dead or noisy or whatnot. And that will be your average experience with a lot of the records that you can just randomly find out there. Similar with songs by Stephen Foster, non-such label. I think about the similar recording quality, similar sound quality as the Schumann Vox recording, and it's fun music, good music, but doesn't hit that exceptional recording scale, and it won't make you think that okay, it was worth to get digital, because you can just stream a bunch of digital stuff and probably it will sound cleaner, it will sound more dynamic, more lively, more pinpoint imaging, more and more of every category. And if you play it on a turntable, it will sound more natural, but only if you have your system voiced to sound natural. And what I noticed that 99% of the stereo systems today are not voiced to sound natural. What you can get commercially, it has a really, I would say, fake sound. I don't want to offend anyone. Please don't think that I think bad of commercial systems, but they have a sound to, and it's not even high fidelity. It's not even showing you more what's on the recording. It's showing a more specified, more specific aspect to give you more detail. So every commercial audiophile, what is sold as audiophile gear, are done in a way to give you, to generate the greatest possible level of detail that can be achieved by the technology packaged in that box that you are purchasing. And of course, the more money can be used to put components, higher quality components into that package, the more detail can it extract. But every manufacturer is now pushing the boundaries to artificially heighten the available detail level from any package, any component that you buy today, and that always goes at the expense of balance, at the natural sound, at tonality, harmonic content. So that's why today's gear mostly are unlistenable if you want to listen like harpsichord, like music instruments that require uncanny balance. Like you need to have like perfect balance, perfect ability to deliver tonality, harmonic content, and low level of perceptible distortion. Because what is perceptible distortion, how the human ear hears what as distortion component, is radically different from what is measured on the charts and published with your datasheet. And nowadays we are sold gear amplifiers that have like 0.001% THD, and you would think, oh, it doesn't have any distortion. And no, it distorts AF. Just those metrics that get published have nothing to do with those metrics, how the ear perceives. Because that 0.001% THD, in certain conditions, you cannot hear even 1% THD. But the problem is that when there's like 0.001% THD on a 20 Hertz component at a 20th higher order frequency level, your ear perceives it louder than the actual note that produces that distortion. And that's why even these amplifiers which are sold with that kind of low distortion, given material with enough complexity, will sound atrocious, like what's going on? It's supposed to sound divine and perfect. It's barely tolerable. Would someone turn it off? It's making my earrings, making my ears hurt. And while tube gear, they have like 1% distortion, but that's second order distortion. And that's how the brain works. If the distortion is very close order compared to the fundamental frequency, then the brain processes it as like 1% compared to that. But if the distance is very high, then from the low notes as we go higher, then the sensitivity of the ear just shoots up through the sky, like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 dB based on the level you are listening and the frequency you are listening. And then suddenly that 0.001% distortion becomes unbearable. And your mid-range is just going to get flooded with that signal. That's really bad. And of course there are ways how you can mitigate that, but you can bet on it that the average consumer gear, even at the price of $10,000, they don't deal with this issue. And actually, you don't need really expensive gear to deal with this issue. It can be done on more of a budget level as well, but that's not the point, because there's no pressure, there's no peer pressure to do that. What else? I haven't shown you guys those records that are my keepers. One of them, look at that, Vanguard Everyman Classic. Can you see something? Because I have to hide my face so the camera focuses on it. And what did I write on it? Fabulous cello. Oh my! So this is actually like a music quartet, actually with a piano. So it makes it a quintet, right? A quartet plus a piano. And when I listened to it, I was like, oh, no, I have so much Dvorak already. I don't want one more. But oh, this is actually fabulous. The first thing I listened first, it starts with the cello. Ooh, it's so rich, so gorgeous. A fabulously recorded cello, it opens this record. It's fantastic. Piano, fabulous. And the instrument balance is really, really fantastic, very enjoyable, beautiful music. I would say the only downside is that the violin they have is a really thin sounding violin that kind of sticks out from the recording, but other than that, it's absolutely fantastic. Peter Serkin plays the piano and David Sawyer plays cello. So this is a fantastic, it's staying, it's a keeper. I'm keeping it. So one more score for Dvorak, right? And another one. I wasn't going, I thought, maybe I just donate this right away. It's called the Baroque Violin Sonata, Everyman, classic, Vanguard as well. So it's another British recording. I think it's British, right? British? No, it's New York. Sorry, Vanguard is not British. It's New York, printed in United States. And it has like Vivaldi, Albinoni, Vitali, Tartini, Marcello, and Tartini again. Oh, Marcello, who is Benedetto Marcello? He's like not very well known, but he was like 17th, early 18th century Italian composer. And I generally don't like these kind of compilations because each composer has their own style and own different interpretation, and you really have to be a master of interpretation to pull it off, to interpret each musician properly, and here it didn't happen. I think the violinist Jan Tomaso, he plays, I think it's a he, right? Jan. It doesn't say. I think probably it's a he. He plays himself, but the violin is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, rich, fantastic violin sound, and it's fantastic. So if you are a violinist yourself, then you want to have this album because it's really beautifully recorded and gives you an idea what can be done with violin recordings. And what I wrote here as a note: interpretation is not mature, a lot of the player's own personality comes through. It's good though, soul healing. So this music, I found that I just wanted to listen to it, and while I listened to it, I felt that I'm regenerating, recovering all of that shit that I picked up at my workplace this week. Just, you know, melted like bad fat, like really like extra butter, and I felt it just draining from my body, like all of that weight just getting off. And I think that's for me one of my most important goals with music, is to heal. Music is healing. And if you are not tapping into the healing power of music, I think you are missing out a huge portion of the experience with music. And this LP brings it galore. Oh my God, this is wonderful. So even though I'm really tough on interpretation, and now I have just so much music that I just, if they don't interpret the music correctly or well, I just donate that music. I don't keep it. However, in this case, the interpretation was touched, and how it is recorded, and the dialogue between the harpsichord and the violin was so good that how the person interpreted it differently from the composer's intent, how you should interpret those composers to have authentic experience. It did not bother me this time. Maybe if I listen to it tomorrow, maybe it will bother, but now it did not bother me to such a degree that I'm confident that I'm going to keep this record. And what else? Now we are hitting, what are we hitting? 49 minutes. Goodness! Is anyone awake? Hello! If you are still listening, thank you, you deserve a medal. So, here you go. This is a non-such record. Gershwin! Music, piano music by George Gershwin, William Bolcom. And I was thinking that, I don't know, I have already a couple of Gershwins and a couple of really good ones, and it's just non-such. It's, you know, who cares? It's not even a big audiophile label, just probably mediocre sound, whatnot. and I was just stunned because, yeah, it's not spectacular. It wasn't spectacular at all. It didn't put me in my mindset, ooh, this is ultra high def, wow, listen to the, oh. No, it was not. But it was very nice, good sound, and sounded just so natural that this is a perfect recording. If I have friends over, just put this on and it just will just elevate the mood, make everyone happy, feel happy, really wonderful. So I'm going to, it gave me an idea to create a shelf for like music when I have friends over to put on, because that's something that I'm really deficient at the moment, that I have tons of music which I love listen to, but if I have friends over, I don't really have a selection to have for non-audiophiles. It's just like for party music. It's like that hasn't been a priority of mine, which is kind of sad, but it's the truth. However, I have these sticky tapes that I put my notes on it, and today these batches keep falling off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the inside, and then I'm not losing it. It's just totally unnerving that I spend like a whole day listening to music, create notes, and they fall off, and then of course if you have like 20 sticky notes on the floor, you have no idea which music it belonged to. And now I'm going to, I think, let me see, ooh, I just have so much good stuff here, oh my god. But now I'm going to close today's session with the last, and it's a Rimsky-Korsakov. And this is fantastic. And Moscow Radio Symphony Orchestra, soloist Igor Zhukov. And this is a Melodya recording. This is a Russian Soviet label, and it was recorded by Melodya in Russia, and it was EMI who pressed the record. So this is an EMI pressing of a Melodya recording, and the sound is fabulous. So those of you who don't know Melodya, they made really fantastic recordings, really natural sound, phenomenal. And if you have a system that's geared toward natural sound reproduction, Melodya recordings will be probably the core of your collection. So look at the sticker that I put there, to be put into my core collection. It's that good, and it's beautiful music, sounds very good. It has a theme progression to it with colors and contrast. It's a very quiet recording, extremely low sound floor. It has a higher noise floor than digital modern recording, but its sound floor is as good as the best digital recordings today, maybe even better, I would say that. However, the naturalness of the recording is just, I would say, runs circles around even the top ones of today's digital. So I think I will finish today with this recommendation, Melodya. So watch out for Melodya records, and I think I lost one of the sticky tapes already, but I know that it came from the Gershwin record, so I will have an easy job to put it back together. So I hope you had a good time going through these records with me, and I hopefully I gave a good overview to those of you who have spent a lot of money to get your system, and now you are just super frustrated because you are buying all of this newly pressed garbage, and it's just garbage. And I would say go back in time, don't be afraid, look at these labels that I came up with, and give them a try, and then you will find that even there, maybe you will have like 1 in 5, 1 in 10 records that you will love. Maybe half of them will be trash. If you get for yourself a proper record cleaning device, I would say get a nitty-gritty and an ultrasonic record cleaner, and then things like noise and dirt won't be an issue anymore. These two, even like the worst sounding, most badly treated records, if you run them through like 2 or 3 times through an ultrasonic cleaning bath, they will come out remarkably good. And after you clean them, you do go it through the nitty-gritty to dry them. So that's what I do: ultrasonic cleaning and then nitty-gritty. However, first what I do is I listen to them first with my mid-grade cartridge, with my Audio-Technica ATF7, and those ones that I like are keepers. Then I run them through the cleaning, because that takes a lot of time, and I do not have the capacity to just ultrasonic clean thousands of records, so I just clean those which are really keepers and which really need ultrasonic cleaning. So that's it for today, and have fun. And now you would say, oh, but now János, it's the same thing, like I buy these old records and there's still like 1 in 3, it might be keepers. Yeah, but you spent like 10 times less money for buying like this many records compared to like spending 40-50 bucks a pop for a modern pressing. And what I noticed is that these older issue records, older ages, have a so much more healthier approach to how they look at sound, how they present music, and also how the performers are healthier in their mind and in their soul. Today, our society is so stressed out. It also bleeds into the music we make. All that stress impacts music. And as you go back decade by decade, the level of stress is just cut down 10x, 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 10x. And when you hit like the 50s, 60s, there's absolutely no stress, even though they came off from the end of the World War, but there's just absolutely zero stress at that era. And people can just reflect their hearts and just much more direct experience. And now we have so many veils, so many illusions, so many expectations, layers and layers of expectations that provide a fakery to the performance, fakery to the recording, fakery to the whole consumer society. This consumer society did not exist yet in the 60s. It was very different approach. And I think if you want a healthy music listening experience, try to tap into that. And maybe that's not what you want to listen to, but it will give you the contrast that you might need. You might need the contrast to contrast our age and to appreciate what we lost as mankind through the past half century, and what is it that we gained. And that will give you a good indicator of was it worth it to kind of recalibrate yourself. Are we going to the future that is good for us? And I think all of this is to create a compass, a guidance for you, to help you live your everydays, to help you being creative, help you being supportive more of your fellow human beings, and just generally be a decent human being on planet Earth. So thank you for tuning in, and if you are still awake, have an amazing day or night. Bye bye.